We just watched a clip, welcome to the Dust Up, folks, of Chuck Norris fighting Bruce Lee. And this week, we're doing that because we're talking about Bruce Lee versus who, Jay?
Wong Jack Man.
Wong Jack Man?
Mm-hmm. Battle of the Bay Area, which is good for you.
Racist.
Well, it may be. Everything could sounds a little bit racist.
Hugh Jackman?
No.
Wong Jackman.
Wong Jack Man. Welcome back to the Dust Up, everybody. Jay Larson here with the man, the myth, the legend, Al Madrigal of Lopez versus Lopez.
Yeah, it's out. People are watching it. People are liking it. It's a great season 2. We've had great guest stars. I got to shoot with Cheech and Chong. Jaime Camille, my buddy Michael Irby, who plays Cristobal on Barry.
I got to go to set for one taping, and it's just the thing that blows me away is it's a 5-person cast, 6-person cast. That is just wild. That between 6 people, you guys are able to create an entire episode of a show.
That's what's been fun is we've had a lot of guest stars. So guest stars have been super cool. It's a great gig. Anybody who knows anything about working in multi-camera comedies, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I'm pretty much out of there by like 1:30 p.m.
But it's got a live audience. If people who, when you watch a multi-camera comedy, if you don't know, is when there's 3 or 4 cameras set up in front of, and there's a set, and there's a live audience there, and these people are watching you do it. It's not like,
And they're watching us screw up. They're watching us do it again. They're watching us do alt jokes, and they're having a great time. People think that there's a laugh track. They're like, I hate this laugh track. Now it's actually real people.
Real people.
You went. You saw it.
And the thing that I will never, when people say live music is the best, right? Seeing live music is the best. Seeing live stand-up comedy, there is nothing. I was telling something the other night that one night at the Comedy Magic Club I was hosting, and Ray Romano popped in to do a guest set, I said, ladies and gentlemen, we have a special guest, Ray Romano. I felt heat from the audience, how excited they were, like a wind. So when you're live, it's different. And when those people listening to them, I find I'm sitting there laughing out loud while I'm watching it. And I'm like, I don't do this at home watching TV. It's because you're there. It's live. It's pretty amazing.
So the people are having a fantastic time, and they're part of the process. So those are all real laughs. I know it sounds like, again, if you're not into that sort of thing and you're watching, more into...
Don't forget the greatest sitcoms of all time have been multicams.
Yeah,
Cheers, Frasier, Seinfeld... all multis.
Taxi, we can go
Martin.
on and on. Martin, we had Tisha Campbell this week.
Oh, rad.
Damn.
Anyway,
Gina.
super cool. And I will say, Ron Pearson, maybe the greatest
warm-up guy
I've ever seen. Holy cow.
Juggling. He's got bits for days.
I messaged him after. I go, bro, I just got to let you know how impressed I was with what you were doing.
Oh, I'm sure he loved to see.
Because I've done crowd warm-up, and I am... If we were, he's like a Hall of Famer, first ballot, and I was like, getting called up from the
Well,
writers.
it's a special thing to do audience warm-up because it's not just about stand-up. You're not doing your act.
No.
You are actually going, you just need to get these people hyped up. So you need to tell them why they're there, why they're important. It's more cheerleader than anything else.
Not only that, he's a director. He's directing the audience constantly. When all of a sudden he's listening to everything back here, like, all right, we're ready to go. And then he calms down, and then he tees them up for what's going to happen with their little show that they're doing when they're done taping. He was just great. Dude.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Great.
Folks, we have a really emotional scene coming up here, and you're going to love this one. He sets them up. It's great.
You don't have any emotional scenes. You're straight comic.
Oh, no, I do. Actually, we
Really?
have Marshawn Lynch and Jim Plunkett in an episode, and it's Lopez versus Raiders, and I got a really emotional scene. It's hilarious. And then we have in this next, it's probably passed already, but this Tuesday, Cheech and Chong and I have all my scenes are with Tommy Chong.
That's amazing. That's cool.
That's right.
Keep watching Al's show so that it gets picked up again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And then Bruce Lee.
I'll get to it, Al, okay? Let me run the show here. Always.
Did you take karate when you were growing up?
Like I said, Al, I will run this episode, Al. God damn it. You ever had someone who's like, hey, will you do this? And then you go, yeah. And they're like, all right, well, will you do it like this, though? That's what I'm dealing with Madrigal. I never took karate, no. And I still see karate shops open, and I'm like, how the hell are these people staying in business? Like, who's still going? And then my son was taking it for a little while.
Me and my daughter always wanted to do Filipino stick fighting. I always thought it would be really cool to grab a broom handle and just fuck somebody up.
Yeah.
Just whop, whop, whop. Which you could, but I want to like twirl it. If you get in front of somebody and there's a fight that's about to go down and you grab like a backhoe or something and just go like that above your head, like Last Airbender shit, and just start twirling the fucking stick, people are going to be concerned.
People are going to be like, yeah, yo, this guy's come from a different cloth.
Or he's either that or he's like a band leader for a Southern school.
Yeah, because you're never going to be able to find... You know what I do love about that is the utilitarianism of it, Al. You could always... I could break off a piece of that bookshelf and turn it into a stick. Mm-hmm. You can't find a Chinese star or you can't take this table.
You got to carry those with you.
You got to carry those with you, but grabbing a broom handle, I like your style.
What about the guys who can throw playing cards and have them stick into things?
They cut through watermelons, those guys.
What the fuck?
I still don't. And they tell you, like, hey, I can show you how to do it. You watch them on Instagram, like, hey, and you're like, get out of my face. I don't even know what's going on.
That's crazy.
That would be a cool... Would you rather be a stick fighter?
Or a playing card chucker.
Yeah.
I'd want to be a stick fighter.
Yeah.
I might still do it. I think when the kids leave the house completely, I have a couple things that I'm going to be doing. I'm going to really get my Spanish down. Maybe
it's embarrassing. Embarrassing to me that you'd even say that.
I'm going to get my Spanish down, and then I'm going to go and I'm going to take a musical. We have a piano in the house, so I'm going to learn how to play piano. And then I'm also going to get into Filipino stick fighting.
You're not going to do any of these
You're going to be the first person I come over to his house and fuck up. So, just remember when
What are you, raking, Larson? Yeah, you want to give a hand? Sure.
Just whack you in the fucking head.
You know what I'm doing? You were supposed to take the class with me. I'm taking a frame-making class this weekend.
I really was interested in doing that.
You weren't interested? Or you
I
were?
Really was interested.
Okay.
I cannot.
Yeah, no, I understand. It's okay. So I'm saying you don't have to wait till the kids move out.
Do you want my table saw? You don't want my table saw.
No, Al, I'm not starting a wood shop. That thing's fucking huge.
All right.
I don't even know where I would put it. I don't even know how you got it. It came with your house.
Came with my house.
My house came with a lawnmower when I was a kid. That's how big the yard was. There's certain shit you just can't get rid of. That's why it comes with a house.
I'm going to fix it up.
And then you're going to do what with it?
I'm going to start carpentry.
You can't even take a frame making class.
I'm going to become a Filipino. Everyone can make note. I'm going to be a Filipino stick fighter. I'm not Filipino, but I'll know how to do their stick fighting. And then I am going to learn. I'm already listening to a lot.
No one is going
to
be following you for the next 17 years to when you finish these things.
3-year plan.
Okay. So the thing we got to talk about with Bruce Lee, okay, we're going to talk about his childhood. I want to talk about his physical ability. And I want to talk about, we're going to get into the major dust-up towards the end, okay? Because I don't want to break down a bunch of dust-ups and fights because the guy had a lot of them.
He had a lot of beefs.
He had a chip on his shoulder like you do and like I do. He had a chip, right? But I do want to talk about, and some of the stories that you hear about Bruce Lee, they are like, they're mythical. They're mythical, but they're coming from reputable people. So you're like, all right, I guess that's real. Like, let me ask you this right now. Could you do 50 push-ups?
50 push-ups.
Straight.
Right now, I bet I could give you 30.
Really? Well, that's great. I don't even think I can, to be honest with you. But heavyweight karate champion Joe Louis was impressed when Bruce took hold of a 75-pound barbell. I'm going to hold on that. Bruce Lee was seen doing 50 chin-ups with one arm. 50 chin-ups, one arm. Okay, he was a light dude.
I could not do, you said push-ups.
I'm getting the push-ups. But
I'm just saying, a chin-up?
Yeah.
I don't think I could do one.
With two arms.
With two arms.
Yeah.
Those are hard.
Now, you know, there is the way you go like this. You do pull-up and people say, that's one arm, you know? Taekwondo master Jun Ri did a double take when he saw Bruce Lee performing push-ups using only, not just one hand, one finger of one hand.
Finger, bro.
One finger of one hand. You've mentioned in a past episode.
Hammer finger.
You got a hammer finger. This guy's doing one finger push-ups. Chuck Norris, winner of karate's Triple Crown for most tournament wins in 1969, had eyebrows raised when Bruce knocked out 51 arm push-ups. So it's something he could do.
One arm push-ups.
One arm. He's doing one finger, one arm. Doesn't matter.
Crazy.
And then this one, which is just... Heavyweight karate champion Joe Louis was impressed when Bruce took hold of a 75-pound barbell and, standing up straight, pulled the barbell to his chest and slowly pressed it out parallel to the ground until his arms were locked straight. That is going like this.
Bananas.
I mean, you could do it maybe with your Filipino
Stick.
fighting stick, but you 75-pound dumbbell? Get out of my face, dude. So... Clearly,
he's a fit man.
Physical specimen. But my thing, and why I take it back to his childhood, is what would you need to be going on in your childhood to get you to a point that you could even excel at that strength, at that level?
You want to be so psychotic and obsessed and OCD about your physical training. What would make you want to get to that level of obsession?
You push yourself to a level that's insanity. You ever done push-ups or sit-ups and you're like, it crunches. You're like, I'm good. That's when Bruce Lee would be like, nah, I'm going to do another 150.
Yeah, Herschel Walker would do like 3,000 sit-ups a day. And like these people would just like...
Look what we're talking about here, you know?
Yeah.
We're talking about like the greatest icons of all time, athletes. But Bruce Lee, I feel like, gets confused as like, was he an actor? Was he a martial artist? And then how many times did he have to prove himself that he was more than just an actor?
Yeah,
right?
it had people calling him out on a regular basis.
Which we're not going to get into a ton of them. There is one with Vic Damone that I love, and I'm going to retell that story.
Vicky
Damone, dude. You know what? And for this episode, I brought him. Vicky, come out here, man! So first thing, growing up in childhood, because I know there's, you did some research on this as well. His parents were superstitious and thought that ghosts, spirits, were coming to get him boys. They were coming to get boys. So they dressed him as a girl at night, and he slept in girls' clothing till he was 9 years old.
But he slept in girls' clothing. He didn't go to school.
I think he
as
went
a
to
girl?
school till he
as
was
a girl.
9 years old. He had to go to a girls' school until he was 9 years old, dressed like a girl. His parents dressed him first, his brother up as a girl until they were around 9 years old to ward off evil spirits called confusing the spirits. Sent to bed in a skirt every night, his ears pierced so the devil spirits would not snatch the baby boy. His first movie role he played was a baby girl, so his whole life he felt like he was fighting this, like, to assert his masculinity in the world.
Okay, that
Kinda
makes a lot of sense. Yep.
Could you imagine being dressed as a girl?
Well, my uncle John, I interviewed him. He passed away. My dad passed away, and they would tell stories about growing up in San Francisco. And they went to, I think it was All Souls, which is not there anymore in San Francisco. And the nuns would dress. My uncle was a bad kid. He got kicked out of that school. I think
this was in San Francisco.
This is in San Francisco.
Italian side?
No, on the Mexican
Okay.
side. Now, they grew up in a neighborhood where it was very mixed, but they would get into a lot of trouble. My dad and his brother John would get a BB gun and shoot out all the Christmas tree ornaments when my grandmother saved all of her money to decorate the Christmas tree. They would find a kid and take his clothes and throw it in like tar. And they were troubled kids. They were like,
what was that?
They were like,
I think it's because
loose in the neighborhood. And
I get it, but it's because like you talk about. I work a lot on breaking generational trauma. I had a lot of trauma as a kid, based around, and I break that for my kids. Do you think there's some generational trauma coming from? If you haven't seen the Instagram story or post Al released recently of that story about his grandfather, do you think it has anything to do with like that's who they were growing up around?
I just think they grew up in a time where
don't make excuses for your family.
San Francisco was not developed. They used to go out in where Candlestick Park was and like the Navy Pier and make rafts. The Coast Guard had to pick them up at one point.
You're like, guys, you're already here. Where are you trying to go?
So they were just getting a shitload of trouble, these kids. So anyway, my Uncle John is getting in trouble. The nuns dressed him up like a girl and pushed him out on the girls' schoolyard. He threw
nuns are the worst.
He threw a dirt clod at a nun.
Clod?
A dirt clod. You know, like a clump of dirt.
Yeah,
like
okay.
You pick up a big clump
I've
of dirt.
never heard clod.
And he'd throw a dirt clod right at the nun's chest and pushed her downstairs and the whole thing, and ended up getting kicked out. But he went to Lincoln High School, and then my dad went to the high school that I went to. And so my dad, they were always kind of like pitted against each other. Mm-hmm. I think he had a lot of trauma from being dressed up like a girl in school a lot, and he was also trying to be like super masculine, rode a motorcycle.
Yeah, you're gonna force the counter reaction to that kind of thing is gonna be huge.
You try to compensate.
Yeah, and I think with Bruce Lee, that had a huge impact on him, especially. And he was a little dude. You know, he wasn't super tall.
So there's a guy with a Napoleon complex that is been dressed up like a girl.
Yeah, and he's growing up in a place where I say it's almost mythical. Like when you watch The Outsiders, right? Or you watch West Side Story, and you see that they're fighting with knives and chains and bats.
There's gangs. There's like
there
a triad.
Were gangs, dude. And that's what was going on all around where he grew up. Where was his hometown again? Ben, do you know that?
So you have to know how to fight.
You got to know how to fight because dudes are going to, and his whole thing was, then he got to a point where I also think like, what's a famous quote you think of?
Do you know how to fight? Have you been in a big, like punching dudes in the face fight?
I've been in fights, but I've never thrown a punch or been punched. I've been in
I know about this from the crab feast.
Yeah.
You've never been punched.
Right. Never been punched.
And you've never punched.
No. I'm a pacifist, dude. I hate physical violence.
I've choked a bunch of people.
Choking.
I've choked and been choked.
You've been choked and choked.
And choked.
Were you choked first and you're like, fucking, I like this move.
I'll choke back.
I'm going to choke a bunch of people out.
This is all in Hong Kong.
In Hong Kong. Okay, thank you.
In my fraternity, I remember some guy that was like drunk and like sexually harassing some girl on the dance floor, and he was huge, and I just went straight for his throat. And so he was like a girl was trying to get away from him, and I went in, superhero Al, he went in straight for the choke and got him off. And then I think he was kicked out of the party after that because it was my fraternity. And then
was this at Gonzaga?
Cal Poly in St. Louis Obispo.
Yeah.
And then I choked that guy in that pool hall in Detroit. I told you about that.
Yeah. These guys were fighting. This is how they had to survive. Like you would walk to school.
I'm up against any of these guys. I did dead immediately.
Yeah, you're dead.
Kicked in the face.
I mean, so this one fight I thought was pretty. One occasion, Bruce was approached while at school by a student looking to extort money from him. The two students headed for the bathroom. Bruce led the way. He was like, yeah, let's go to the fucking bathroom, dude. And the extortionists followed him. When they arrived, Bruce turned, pushed his adversary into the bathroom wall, pulled out a switchblade, and held it to the boy's stomach. Okay? You think that's enough?
How old is he at this point?
He's in high school, so
okay.
I don't know, 14, 15, somewhere around there. You think that's enough at that point? Bruce Lee, this is deep, dark shit, what he made this. Then, tough guys finally evaporate. Said, all right, now Bruce Lee looked at him and goes, take your clothes off. All of them.
Yeah.
And left the kid in the bathroom and took all of his clothes. He wasn't like, he was dark, dude. That was like deep-rooted shit.
Well, it's also like, hey, the word's going to get out, don't fuck with this guy.
Yeah, true.
In a time where there's a lot of gang violence going on.
Yeah, to me, like when I keep talking about or saying that it seemed like Hollywood, like when you watch The Outsiders or you watch, any of Bruce Lee's movies, you're like, that's literally how the man was growing up. He was getting kicked out of school. He was forced to get into boxing, so he started learning boxing. He was learning all different kinds of martial arts. And another story that was in here that I thought we needed to talk, I just had to tell, just to show, just like when we hear, Al, about you getting into dust-ups or me getting into dust-ups, you hear our backstories from where we come from and things that have happened, and you're like, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. So this one occasion, Bruce Lee's walking through the slums of Shamshupo. Okay, and excuse any of my pronunciations today. I think it's a high expectation to hold me to. Concurred?
Wong Jackman.
Thank you. So anyway, this guy comes. A man suddenly approaches him, charging with an axe, running at Bruce Lee with an axe. According to Sid Fatdad, a friend of Bruce who happened to be with him that day, the man had been giving Bruce a rough time for several days in succession, and when he saw him again on this particular morning, he lost his mind and charged him. According to Fatdad, Bruce was neither surprised nor scared by the attack. Instead, he deftly sidestepped the man, axe swinging, and simultaneously fired a kick directly to the man's groin. As the man doubled over from the strike, Bruce drove his elbow into the back of the man's neck. The guy dropped his axe and fell to the ground. And then Bruce picked it up, put it on his neck, saying, "Mo yuck, don't move." The fight was over. So here's the thing. When I think of... Go ahead, what were you going to say?
No, I just like that we just learned how to say, don't move, mo yuck. I could say mo yuck. I'll use that. I'll file that away. And then I was just thinking about Filipino stick fighting. If a guy comes at me with an axe, that's not going to be helpful.
The stick fighting? You might be able to. Maybe with the stick fighting, can you put it down and then pole vault over the guy?
Oh my God,
that's
I gotta
a move,
get to
right?
that point. Yeah. Sure, I don't think you can do that. I was pole vaulting. I pole vaulted in high school.
Shut up! Did you?
Not well.
How long did you do it for? Because I don't like people who...
2 years.
Wow. What was your height?
I got like 10.6.
10.6. Is that a rush when you get up to the top up there?
I mean, I never could bend the pole.
That's all you have to bend the pole.
I couldn't do it. I would just like get up there, get my body over the thing, and the 10.6 was the highest I've ever done. And if you want to be good in high school, you're like at 11.5, and then the 13.5 is where you really.
Those are the guys who bend in the pole.
You got to bend the pole if you want to go 13.5.
You know what bending the pole really is? It's letting go and it's committing.
Yeah,
it's committing to the idea that you will be okay. Who knows shit? You're bending and then being like, oh yeah, this thing will chuck me over.
It was mostly me goofing off and wrestling like all the other Chinese kids in my high school.
First of all, what do you mean all the other? You're not Chinese.
All the Chinese kids.
Thank you.
In my high school.
Wait a minute. Do you ever throw javelin?
No.
See, that would.
We have that.
If I could go back and learn a sport.
That'd be a great thing
javelin,
to have.
I would
because
love.
You could defend your home with that.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, somebody comes up, you're just holding one of those things. You can't like reload though. You just have a bunch of them.
But the thing is, it's like that's for when the guy escapes from your home and they're like down the street and you fucking chuck it down the street. That would
be the coolest skill to have.
Oh yeah, dude.
Guys run away, and you let them go, and you just wait for it.
I used to do a joke about it, and I said that was my whole answer to gun control. Take guns away and give everyone a javelin. You're gonna no one's gonna be breaking in, and if you are, it's like if you get robbed, it's on you, man. You didn't learn how to jab.
Open up an eye patch store just immediately.
Come on. So clearly, this guy is up against things as a kid. Now, when I grew up, I had friends who took karate or karate, and everything that was going on, like American Ninja. Was out a movie called American Ninja, not American Ninja Warrior, and ninjas, Chinese star. This was the thing. You would try to find a Chinese star. I remember going on a Boy Scout trip to Washington, D.C., and I got a butterfly knife like on the street for like $2. Like having a butterfly knife was like, yeah, dude, let me get it.
We were, and this story obviously takes us to Chinatown in San Francisco, but the grammar school that I went to was École Notre Dame de Victoire. That's where I had to wear a French sailor.
Of course, people want to fucking beat the shit out of you. Where do you go to school? I go to Notre Dame. What would you say?
École Notre Dame de Victoire.
What was lunch like?
It was delicious. My mom would make me lunch though.
Oh, but you haven't seen those things on like French schools where they give them like, cream soup and kids are eating like they're doing the dishes.
I don't remember our lunches being that fantastic. Ben, did you get lunch? Ben, our producer, went to the same grammar school I've known him since I was 5. So, Ben, do you remember our lunches?
No, we had bad lunches. Wasn't Sven's mom the lunch lady or something? Oh, the lunch lady.
That's right.
You guys went to school with a Sven?
Sven Silva, Norma Silva.
Jesus.
And I got rules written about us. Remember when we figured out we could order pizzas? We just started calling and having pizzas delivered.
Shut up. See, that's the shit I miss. You can't get away with that shit now.
No.
Well, kids could just order from their cell phone.
I guess so.
Have it
but we would get on find a phone call, or we had to find a landline. We went to the landline that was in the auditorium and ordered some
gym.
The gym.
Amazing.
Ordered some pizzas.
I love that shit.
So anyway, yeah, we had access because this is on Pine between Grant and Stockton. Now, Grant is the big...
You're talking by Chinatown.
We're talking Chinatown. We're talking the entrance to Chinatown is a block away from my grammar school. So you could walk in, and it was like a movie set. It was just a completely different world. People are primarily speaking Chinese. And
100% speaking
Well,
Chinese.
it's really one of the biggest Chinatowns in the United States. It's massive. Going to grammar school, we take a bus called the 30 Stockton. I remember my friend Cara.
The what?
The 30 Stockton.
I think you said the dirty Stockton.
No, the 30 Stockton would go right through Chinatown, and we were getting punched by old ladies. We would.
What? Hold on. What are you talking about?
Old Chinese women were very aggressive, and they would elbow a little French kid right in the ribs. We were wearing sailor suits because you couldn't wear, and I've actually been listening to a lot of...
We're trying to eliminate Asian hate, Al, and this is not helping.
They were the ones they instigated everything. So you'd get on the 30 Stockton, you'd get on with a bunch, and everyone forced their way onto a crowded bus. And I remember getting elbowed in the ribs so hard as a little kid by an old lady that I was doubled over. And then this, I'm a second grader, and a fifth grader looks at me and she goes, you can hit them back.
What?
And they won't do anything because they respect it. And then I would go, kind of like that, and I punched an old lady right in the ribs, and she just moved out of the way, and I walked by her.
I mean, you got to call a comedy special like punching old ladies or...
Punching.
Okay.
Old lady ribs.
Well, so that's a bit of his childhood. Fights happening, the weirdness of being dressed in girls' clothes, having to survive by being in gangs, the triads around the city that were terrorizing the city. People were scared of these triads and these gangs.
When does he make it to the United States?
I'm going to get you there. I want to bring up one other fight because he was acting... he was in a movie when he was 9, but then he was acting in movies in Hong Kong before he even came to the States. He was successful over in China. Anyway, so one afternoon, this is there were other actors that were jealous of his success that were also like martial artists, okay? And this is one fight that he got in with actor Lung Zhe Fo, I believe, popular movie star in the region, and an actor who was very much under the control of the triads. So the triads would control these guys. I think it's because such a boom was happening in the acting world around martial arts, maybe in the same way that, remember when there was so many rappers were getting into...
Well, the mob used to control actors, and what's happening right now in Mexico, narcos are controlling pop stars. And amazing. DJs, and yeah.
Well, I'm going to give you this story, and then I'm going to give you Victimone, and then we're going to get into the premiere dust-up of this entire thing. That takes you back to your town as well. So one afternoon, Bruce Lee is out enjoying lunch with his friend Wu Nyan, the young man adopted by the Lee family at a tea house in Kowloon, when in walked Handsome Fo. Okay? Handsome Fo. That's the actor and some of his friends. Bruce was probably well aware of Fo's resentment toward him, but if so, he didn't care, and many wannabe actors in the movie business had been wanting to fight Bruce Lee or show themselves because they were jealous of his success for many years, right? Ling was another name or on a rather long list, so Handsome Fo is Lung Zhe Fo. Okay, that's who we're talking about here. And at the time, they were calling Bruce Lee the Eastern James Dean. You know what I mean?
He's a very handsome guy.
Handsome dude, well-established, working, and he had that bad boy attitude, just like James Dean. And it was in the newspaper, high praise So Pho is sitting there in the restaurant with the newspaper with this article about Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee's at another table, and he's mocking Bruce Lee out loud to his friends in front of Bruce Lee. Bruce and Wu...
He had not heard the Switchblade take the clothes story.
No, he hadn't heard that shit. Bruce and Wu ignored the insults and continued to talk. Their refusal to respond angered Handsome Pho's friends. Hey, kid, do you have any triad connections? One asked. Right? They're bringing up the triad.
They got to check.
Letting them know. And if not, if you still want to continue acting, then come over here and kneel down and offer a cup of tea to Handsome Pho. After Pho accepts your offer, your future will be bright forever. So they're just trying to embarrass him, right? He doesn't take the bait. Bruce basically tells him to F off. They go, if you want to do something, Bruce goes, you want to do something? Let's fight. And they go, fine. He goes, let's take it outside. Pho and his friend stood up and headed for the door. Bruce and Wu followed. Now, also, when they brought up the triads, other people who were eating,
they pack up and leave.
They bolt. Mm-hmm. That's how insane
Just
that
like
is.
a movie. Like, yeah, you close up shop. It's like that old West town where you see the bad guy will come into town and people start shutting their saloon doors.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Like, this world is just different than anything I can imagine. Like, even when we see stories about Crips and the Bloods, you see them, like, living this normal life in houses, and you don't, like, imagine it's spilling over into this kind of environment where people are running. It just seems like lore, you know? It doesn't even seem real. They go outside. Bruce quickly began pummeling Pho quite severely, which caused a crowd to gather around to watch the spectacle of two popular actors fighting each other. So think about this. This would be like maybe at Formosa Cafe in Los Angeles, and Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio are out on the street fucking just going at it.
Yep, duking it out.
Which is insane. The owner of the tea house called the police, who arrived on the scene within a matter of minutes, and all involved in the altercation were hauled off to jail. Okay, so, like, think about your willingness to risk your success, even at the where he's at, his status symbol, just for because some guy's talking shit to you. He's never gonna lose, right?
He knows he's not going to lose a fight to a guy named Handsome Pho.
Hey.
Handsome Pho.
But what I'm saying is, it doesn't matter. It's the fact that he's willing to. We're telling you. Sorry, I hit the mic. Al yelled at me earlier, guys. He goes, Jay, last week you kicked the table a lot. I'm like, oh, jeez, Al. Anyway, the last story I want to bring out is Vic Damone, Vegas singer Vic Damone, okay? And I want to say, a lot of these fights, guys, we took from John Little's book, The Wrath of the Dragon, The Real Fights of Bruce Lee. So we got a lot of these out of there from that book, which are some great stories, including this Vic Damone one. Vic Damone expressed his opinion that a lot of the martial arts mystique was exaggerated, right? Yeah, it's just acting, right? And I mean, how do you draw the line, right? Think about Ice-T and then into rap music. Where is the line? Is he a gangster? Is he a rapper? They're talking shit about Bruce Lee. A good, tough street fighter, he insisted, could always beat a karate man, especially an Asian. That's Vic Damone saying that, not me, because Asians were smaller, thinner, and just basically couldn't stand up to a big, tough American street brawler. This is Vic Damone. Doesn't sound like a guy that would say something like that. You know what I mean? That's sarcasm, Al. Now, Vic didn't say this out of prejudice. It's just that he really believed it. At the time, Vic employed the services of two huge armed bodyguards, one of whom held contempt for martial arts in general. Bruce studied the situation when he arrived at a way of proving the effectiveness of martial arts without getting anyone hurt. He said, I'll tell you what we can do. Put one bodyguard in front of the door. When I come through the door, he explained to the bodyguard, stop me if you can. The other bodyguard, Bruce, placed about 5 feet behind the first man and told him to put a cigarette in his mouth. He's like setting up a card trick here. Let's assume that the cigarette represents your holstered gun, he continued. Vic, when I come through the door, I want you to begin counting to 5. By the count of 5, I will be past the first bodyguard and will have knocked the cigarette from the mouth of the second bodyguard. The cigarette is equivalent to his gun. When he sees me come through the door, he should try to take it out of his mouth before I kick it out. Now, I'm at a disadvantage because I'm telling you all this in advance. If I succeed, then would you buy it as an acceptable example of what martial arts can do? They all said, sure, yeah. Course.
Makes sense.
Makes sense to me. Bruce then left the room. Meanwhile, Vic said to his bodyguards, look, I don't want you to hurt him because he's small and he's Chinese. Vic, it does sound a little I'm not saying it might be. But I don't mind if one of you knock him on his ass. Give him a good shot and let's settle this matter once and for all. So everyone's waiting, right? Suddenly, there's a loud, wrenching explosion. Not only does the door fly open, but it's torn completely from the wall. Bruce kicked the son of a bitch off its hinges. The door slams the first bodyguard so hard he's knocked violently out of the way with the door jammed to his face. 2 seconds later, no more, cigarette flies past the second bodyguard's nose. Bruce had kicked it from his mouth while he stood there frozen in place. Bruce turned and looked at Damone, whose eyes wide was saying, "Holy shit."
That's incredible.
That is a badass. I mean, it's almost like a combination of his ability as an actor and his ability as a martial artist, right?
For sure.
Yeah. I mean, that to me seems like exactly where he puts this all together. So, I give you a lot of background on this guy, Al.
He is a guy that refuses to take any shit. And you're so confident in your ability. I think what I've heard about fighters, and certainly being around like Rogan, I've known Joe Rogan since 1999, and he is a kickboxer. You don't see guys like that getting in fights because they know they can kill somebody.
Yeah, for sure.
And first of all, you'd be a fool to go up and try to pick a fight with a kickboxer, but I think people do try to do that all the time. And you just don't hear about them. They're well aware that their body is this weapon, but Bruce Lee is getting into some shit.
Right. Whereas for me, I am well aware that my body's a wonderland.
Yep.
Thought that'd be a little hitter. Anyway, Wong, Jack, Man, Battle of the Bay Area. This is our ultimate beef. At this point, Bruce is in the Bay Area in Oakland, has opened up I don't think do you say dojo? Karate studio class where he has his students, and I think he's taking on the same mentality that they had in Hong Kong of almost like each school was a gang. Like you represent your school, you represent your neighborhood, right? Yes,
it's just Cobra Kai. It's are 100%. repping your school.
And now Wong Jack Man was also a teacher, and he was in San Francisco, correct? 2 martial artists did indeed fight. Both sides have various controlled. We'll get to that in a second. So what's going on here is there's a class, right, where basically there was like a collection of people in the martial arts community in San Francisco. Bruce Lee is there. There's a performance area. Bruce Lee gets on stage and says, he doesn't challenge to fight everyone, but he just says, hey, if anybody wants to learn to fight my way, come over to Oakland. Now, there were different accounts, like he was challenging people to fight. Was he telling everyone, hey, I'll fight anyone right now? They weren't mad that he was getting up there saying this. They were mad that he was coming in there trying to dip into their cash flow. You know what I mean? Like having your students was more important than anything.
Sure.
Okay?
Yes, that's in 1964. Bruce Lee's approach to teaching martial arts, which included non-Chinese students, begins to cause friction within the traditional Chinese martial arts community. But then shit really heats up in December of 1964. The actual fight between Bruce Lee and Wong Jack Man takes place. So it's a private event with very few witnesses, leading to multiple conflicting accounts of how the fight went down and who was the definitive winner. Wong Jack Man.
Yes.
Is a martial artist who practiced traditional northern Shaolin Kung Fu, and he's based in San Francisco. But it's widely believed that tensions arose from Lee's open policy, which had contradicted open teaching policy. That's what this is all about. Is as some reports suggest that Wong Jack Man was sent by the Chinese martial arts community.
Okay, all right. I get that, but what I have right here is his offense then to the Chinatown Kung Fu teachers hadn't been that he disrespected the traditional Chinese arts during his sales pitches, rather that it was he had somehow worked up the nerve to come onto their turf and attempt to cut into their business.
Sure. So then the community tells him to stop teaching non-Chinese students, though Wong stated himself that the challenge was a personal matter. prompted by Lee's boastful claims about his fighting prowess. So they're offended that he's come in. He's trying to take students, or he's just announcing whoever wants to learn the real deal, come over to Oakland. Then he's teaching people. They're pissed off. This match between Lee and Wong was held in private with only a handful of witnesses. So again, there's various accounts of the details and the intensity and the fight's length. But Bruce Lee's version of this fight claims that...
Before we even get to the fight, right, Wong Jack Man had decided that he should write a letter to Bruce. Again, I think he's being formal about it, letting him know he says to him, issuing a challenge, right? So,
Dear Bruce, I'm going to come over to Oakland and I'm going to fuck you up.
According to the Chinese Pacific Weekly newspaper, Bruce received not only one, but 2 letters from Wong Jack Man, both of which were challenges to fight. Bruce evidently ignored the first letter and so decided the second letter should be sent. However, to ensure that Bruce received the letter, it would not be entrusted to the U.S. Postal Service, but be hand-delivered. Upon receiving the second letter, Bruce wrote Wong back to say he wasn't interested in having a match in San Francisco, but if Wong really wanted to fight, he would be willing to fight him at his studio in Oakland. Bruce's reply, according to Wong's student Michael Dorgan, was what set the fight in motion. The reason he, Wong Jack Man, showed up at Lee's school is because a mutual acquaintance had hand-delivered a note from Lee inviting him to fight. The note was sent, says Wong, after he requested a public bout with Lee. I'm
sorry, so we're worried about teaching non-Chinese students, and then Michael Dorgan is involved?
Hilarious, dude.
Yeah, so clearly Wong Jack Man is teaching non-Chinese students named Michael Dorgman.
Yes.
And, yeah. And anyway, so Wong Jack Man and a bunch of his students drive over to Oaktown, and now they're going to try to fuck Bruce Lee up. So they're going to
fight him, right? But according to Linda Lee, Wong Jack Man had said, if Lee lost the challenge, he was either to close down his institute or stop teaching Caucasians, whites, and I'd take offense to that.
Michael Dorgman also not happy about it either.
No. So the 2 martial artists shook hands. That would mark the end of any civility between the 2 parties that day. Bruce now assumed control of the room. They're fighting at Bruce's studio in Oakland, okay? And he says, did you directly witness me announcing a challenge? And Wong says, no, I didn't. Nevertheless, I had indirectly heard about this. Therefore, I have to teach you a lesson. Bruce gestured toward David Chin. You've been killed by your friend. He's going to ruin your life. Talking about Wong. Wong said nothing. Is that what you want? Bruce asked. Well, no, this is not what I want, but I'm representing these people. Bruce shrugged. Okay, then. Linda Lee recalled that this had an extraordinary effect on Wong Jack Man and his supporters, that he was there to represent his people. That's why he was going to fight for their honor, right? Obviously, they hadn't imagined Bruce was a paper tiger that, faced with an actual challenge by a skilled practitioner like Wong Jack Man, he would simply chicken out. They went into what I can only describe as a huddle. Okay, they got together. I don't do friendly sparring matches, Bruce replied coolly. I want a match with a definitive result.
You lying down, fucked up on the ground.
Yeah, dude, he was not fucking around.
This is going to be points for touching you in the face. This is going to be you just fucking bleeding on the ground.
Yeah. And I think what Wong Jack Man was saying is like, let's put our skills to a test. We're not going to, this isn't a street fight.
Let's get some bricks out.
And yeah, Bruce Lee was like, nah. Let's get some bricks out. Cutting him in half. I hear it.
Yeah.
And then Wong said, we're just going to spar. We'll follow the universal standard rules in a match. No poking eyes, no grabbing the throat, so you're out, or kicking the groin, right?
Those are just 2 of my moves.
And then Bruce Lee says, you come to my school and challenge me, and now you want to set the rules? I'm not standing for any of that. You've come here with an ultimatum and a challenge, hoping to scare me off. You've made the challenge, so I'm making the rules. So far as I'm concerned, it's no holds barred. It's all out. I fucking love it. So Bruce Lee goes into a lead of vertical fist strikes from Bruce, landed flush on Wong, orbital bone, which snapped his head back. Bruce followed up with a series of straight punches, knocking him down. And then he's beating him from this account. And there have been multiple, like you had said. He beats his ass so bad that Wong Jack Man's like running out of the building looking for an open door.
Yeah, but he still, Wong Jack Man after this, both sides claimed that they had won.
Yeah, I know.
Wong Jack Man is claiming that he won this fight, which now, none of that, I mean, World Star that sucker.
Yeah, 2 seconds, man.
Right? So there's video of everything, but then you could just go, yeah, I won. I beat him up.
Well, that's what they both said. They both claimed that they won. And I think it's because they just were dealing with honor. They want to have the honor of their karate studio. God, I hate you. I just think. Do you think, Al, no one's going to have to hit one of this at any point?
I'm not touching it.
I know, but you're very still. I'm a very movable guy.
All right, Aaron, does that happen a lot? Do people hit the mic stands on a regular basis? And can you hear that?
I can hear it. It doesn't happen a lot.
This will be my last podcast, guys. It's been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed it.
So, listen, what are the results of this? He creates a whole new style, which is he calls it Jeet Kune Do, and that emphasizes like speed, and he is really, from this point, he's done with the Bay Area as well, because Hollywood comes calling.
Yeah, and then he's out.
And he's out.
Down to L.A. and gets into dust-ups with many more people.
But I do have to tell you, in San Francisco, going into San Francisco, and the Chinese community in San Francisco, and I grew up in the Sunset District, which was predominantly Chinese. The outer Sunset, when you pass, like, Irving Street is 100% Chinese now, and that was all like the shopping area. So the entire sort of stretch of Irving became mostly Chinese shops. I grew up in mostly a Chinese and Irish neighborhood, and going into Chinatown, it was just another world. Like you walked in, and we would be able to buy anything. My brother would buy machetes, Chinese stars. I still have a scar from a Chinese star. We'd buy bricks of fireworks. We would buy anything we want. It was kind of lawless. So when I imagine these two rival studios going up against each other, with that and the city as a backdrop, it really does seem like you're talking about the triads and where he's coming from. He moved to such a similar place where it's such a cool backdrop for a movie, and they sound like, again, with these rival gangs that sort of followed and seemed to be synonymous with the fighting community. Like it's very cool to think about. But here you have a guy that's not taking any shit from anybody at any time, and when you see that in his eyes, like, those people are scary to go up against.
Of course, because they're irrational, and they are going to stop at nothing. They're going to go all the way to the end.
James Brown, I don't know karate, but I know crazy.
Yeah.
And Bruce Lee was a little bit of both.
A little bit of both.
With good reason to be, because his parents dressed him up like a lady, and he was a tiny man who had a big chip on his shoulder.
Big chip. Bigger than
and a ridiculous amount of skill where he can do those finger pull-ups. You got to be in perfect shape. That's the American Ninja Warrior shit.
Yeah,
those guys.
Craziness.
Can't do any of it. I do want to make sure that we give a shout out to John Little, and we had a great conversation with him about
Wrath of the Dragon, The Real Fights of Bruce Lee.
Wrath of the Dragon, Real Fights of the Bruce Lee. You can find his book on Amazon or Barnes & Noble, Jay's local store, wherever you go and find books.
Yep.
Vromans in Pasadena is a nice place.
Yeah.
I'm glad that still exists. You can follow us on social media, Instagram, The Dust Up Podcast, X, The Dust Up Pod. TikTok, The Dust Up, YouTube, The Dust Up. Phone numbers, 925-727-3878. At Jay Larson Comedy, at Al Madrigal on TikTok, at Al Madrigal Comedy. Of course, I'm going to be in Detroit May 11th. I'm going to do an Instagram post about that. Look for that if you're in Detroit. And
a lot of people are excited to see Al Madrigal back on the stand-up stage. So if you have the opportunity to go see Al in Detroit, by the way, one of my favorite cities I've ever been to for stand-up. I loved it.
Love it.
Love it. Love it. Love it. So go see Al.
And this is the Flat Trackers. Thank you very much, as always, Aaron, Travis, Ben, who work on the show. Let's get dusty.
Let's get dusty.